So, Richard, the Man of Steel, is it living up to the hype to you or what? Christopher Nolan, amazing. It looks great. I'm dying to see it, but what do you think?
Well, here's the thing, Artie. Man of Steel had a great opening weekend, set June records and all that. You mentioned Christopher Nolan. He's the guy that did the Dark Knight stuff. Zack Snyder's the guy that directed Man of Steel. He did three.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The Watchmen and stuff.
Nolan produced it? Did Nolan produce it?
Yeah, he might have been involved on some level. Not, I don't think on a hands-on level. Though.
Oh, okay.
And, and here's the thing. I mean, is it leaps and bounds above and beyond like the 1970s movies in terms of the special effects? Well, of course it is. We know that because they can do that. Transformers are horrible movies, but the special effects are great. I mean,
right.
There's all these artists that can make things look amazing. My problem with it, I gave it like a C+, like 2.5 stars, kind of like right on the border. My problem was, first of all, it's the origin story again. So there we are on Krypton and all of that crap, and then, Mon Pa Kent and everything. But also just once we got to the real Superman story, the same fights we've seen a million times. It could be a General Zod comes to Earth. Superman has to, reveal who he is. And I just thought it was tedious. It was overlong. The best stuff actually was showing Superman as a boy. And I'd never seen this, and some of the super, fan, geeks might know this, and it's been done elsewhere. But one of the cool things to me is when they showed Superman as a little boy, you've got X-ray vision, which means you can see like the skulls of people, not just through their clothes. You've got super hearing. So this little kid thought he was crazy.
Right.
And Kevin Costner playing his dad kind of walks him through it and helps him kind of get over that. But once we got to the Superman story, I'm like, we've seen this a million times before.
Yeah. So that there was one part that you thought was interesting because it was a little dark. You said, okay, this kid thinks he's nuts.
Exactly.
And that was different. That was different.
And one thing I would say, in every superhero movie, even the good ones, there's always a moment where the battle's being raged for hours and hours, whether it's Iron Man or the Avengers, whatever. I mean, the whole city's being torn up, but there's always that one scene where the fight crashes through some windows or lands somewhere, and all the people get up from their desks and run away. And I'm like, what were they doing during the whole battle? Did they not hear about that? And it happens in this movie. It's in a train station. You see all these people, like, these families are going to the train and everything, and then Superman and Zod come, flying through the walls, and they're, like, shocked. And I'm like, did you not hear about this? What's been going on outside in Metropolis for the last 6 hours?
No, you're right. Action movies are all melded into one another. The fight, everything. Well, here's the thing. The ones from the 70s, what those movies had, and this is going to sound like an old fart talking, but what those movies had over the special effects was Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor, Ned Beatty as his bumbling assistant. I mean, the comedy between those two worked so well compared to the darkness. Like, you had those insanely great actors. I mean, that's a great actor as the villain makes all the difference. Now, this guy Shannon is an amazing actor, but Gene Hackman, remember the scene? I was just watching the old Superman the other day. They've been playing it a lot, I guess, to help, raise interest for this. And the scene where Gene Hackman is explaining to Superman with Ned Beatty how he's going to remap the West Coast after he makes half of California fall into the ocean, and he's renaming all the towns, Lutherville and everything, and he gets to one, Ned Beatty named one Otisburg, and Gene Hackman just goes, Otisburg. It's a little bitty place, Mr. Luthor. I mean, Otisburg.
I mean, remember that, because, and look, yeah, Michael Shannon's a great actor, but, it's a very kind of dark Shakespearean performance, and, to me, it's like, you can have a superhero movie that has dark overtones. I mean, certainly the Dark Knight trilogy, but you got to have a sense of humor. And, like, I got the fanboys going crazy at me because I said, like, there's no joy in the storytelling here. And they were like, there shouldn't be any joy. It's life or death. And I'm like, it's a guy in a cape flying around.
Right.
You got to have this kind of entertainment level. But what was interesting to me was, like, when I first posted my review and the Sun-Times review and my on-camera review, they were going crazy. I mean, I was getting the usual, like, you've lost it, you're out of touch, da-da-da. And then I started hearing from people who had actually seen the movie.
Right,
and
exactly.
They agreeing with me. And I'm like, oh, that's an interesting approach. Maybe see the movie before you disagree with me.
Right.
With Zack Snyder directing it, how visually 300-ish is this movie? Because I love that. I love that.
Yeah, 300 was good, yeah.
300 was great, and it kind of fit that storyline. But that's I think his strength and his weakness. He falls back on that.
He does in this one.
Yeah, and it looks amazing.
That's great.
I mean, you can see every penny they spent on the special effects. but it kind of takes you out of the story when you just see, endless scenes of the two superhero guys, one good, one bad, knocking each other all over the place, getting up again, fighting some more, and you're not invested in these characters, and Lois Lane, and and every one of these superhero movies too. The newspaper editor is always thinks the superhero is a bad guy, and he doesn't want to give him any press. And I'm like, really, in this day and age of the media, I think we're going to play that story out pretty big.
Exactly. What about? Well, I don't know. It seems to me that the lack of creativity Hollywood's showing by just redoing movie after movie after movie. Is Tobey Maguire did 3 Spider-Mans now. Another guy's doing a few Spider-Mans, and it seems like a new nerd moves to Hollywood every 10 years, gets some power, and goes, "I want to do my Superman," and they let him do it.
I mean, to me, the most ridiculous thing was the Spider-Man stuff, because I think the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man was probably 2001, 2001, and last year we get the Amazing Spider-Man, and we get Andrew Garfield back in high school, and we just told that story.
Come on,
Superman. It's been a few years, but yeah, I mean, they're doing every superhero they can think of. Personally, I could go the rest of my life without seeing a superhero movie, even the good ones. It's we get it, but we're going to get Captain America, and we're going to start getting Ant-Man, and
See, I'm cool with that. I like that.
Some people do, but to
I'm
me,
one of those people that like it.
To me, after The Dark Knight, you could have stopped. After that was you could have stopped, because that was just superior in so many ways. And Heath Ledger,
right. Something to shoot for.
I want the whole movie to be on land, and he can't do anything.
Aquaman.
Water. Can somebody fill a bathtub for me? I swear to God, I have superpowers.
That would be nice. What about the new Star Trek? Now, I did enjoy that first one that was out.
I did, and I like the second one. Although, again, it's kind of like I'm not a huge Star Trek guy. What I like about J.J. Abrams is he's completely into all the the lore, and he peppers it with all the inside jokes. But he also tells a story if you've never seen a Star Trek episode or movie, and it's a self-contained.
Yeah, he's a talented. J.J. Abrams is a real talented guy.
He's unbelievable. Yeah. He's unbelievable.
Yeah, so you like this one?
I did, but I mean, you're so right. It's like I'm looking at my screening calendar, all the movies I'm going to see this summer, and so many of them are either. I mean, I saw Monsters University tonight, which is the prequel to Monsters Inc., which was a fantastic animated film.
Right.
I'm like, really? There's more to explore with Sully and Mike the Green Eyeball, and tomorrow I'm seeing The Lone Ranger, and maybe it'll be the best Lone Ranger ever. But really, I mean, there's just a real lack of creativity.
Along similar lines, what have you heard about the new Star Wars films that are coming out? What is it, 2014? 2015?
I think later than that, yeah. I mean,
really? So I have to wait.
To me, Star Wars is the same thing. It's like, let the 3 originals,
it's enough,
the trilogy, and that's fine. The other 3
I don't think it is
work,
enough.
And now we're going to get 3 more. Maybe they're going to be great. I would be fine if we never did another Star Wars movie.
Yeah,
so you haven't heard anything.
No, not really.
You're not trying to hear anything either.
Yeah, I think him, like the rest of the world, is not trying to hear anything.
I am.
That's what I'm looking for. The original script to come out. Like every once in a while, I'll see a trailer for a movie, a commercial for a movie, and I'll go, maybe this will be like this generation's Sting or something. Like who's going to write a script like that to where it's really about the guys and really about people? And I saw an interesting commercial for a film that's out now, I think, that looked like it could be really cool, but I guess the critics hated it. I don't know if you're in that group. Now You See Me, it looked interesting. The commercial looked fascinating, but I guess it didn't live up to it. Is that true?
Actually, that's a great example, because I was so rooting for that movie. People always say, when you go into these movies, are you predisposed? Well, I want everything to be good. But it looks so cool, and it's got this great cast, and I love the idea of this sort of, magicians now start robbing banks. The problem was it just had a horrible payoff that you saw coming a mile away.
Oh, really?
I think the other problem with movies about magicians and illusionists is because you can do everything on the big screen. It's like Bewitched, it's not like, oh wow, that's so magical. I don't know how they did that. So when they do a magic trick on stage, even if it's really done in real time, you just know that they could do it all in post-production. So
yeah, it's a movie.
It hurts the movie. But I will say, in terms of all these superhero movies and sequels and stuff, and people sometimes say, well, you critics, you always like the little indie art films, or you like the original films. It's a little bit of a legitimate criticism, just because we're dying to see somebody try to do something.
No, I get it. Listen, I used to envy a job of a movie critic. I get to look at movies, and just review them. Now I'm not so sure because I see some movies and I go, oh God, I'd have to sit through that if I was a critic. I'd have to go there, and then you got to make up a review, and I don't know. There's interesting films that have come out. You know, what film I saw was out a couple of years ago, and that's what happens now. I think with on demand and stuff, you discover stuff a couple of years later. But what a performance by Gosling and Michelle Williams, My Blue Valentine.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God, that was unreal. I know it's a couple years old, but that kind of blew me away a little bit.
Well, and a lot of films like that, I mean, it did get a theatrical release, but, the cool thing is, back in the day, if it didn't get a release or it just played in theaters, for a week, it kind of disappeared, back, maybe DVD or whatever. Now, it's got on demand. It has this second life. So a lot of films like that will, not only make their money back, but also be seen by way more people on various other platforms than ever saw it in the theater.